All right, so here we have Denarius. How are you, Denarius?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
Wonderful, wonderful. Always a pleasure to see you. Always looking great and sharp, and so it's always
Likewise,
always
likewise.
exciting. Good, good, good. Well, we have a number of friends here that have joined us already. I know we're going to have more friends joining us, but and why don't we just get started? So I'll speak a little bit about what we're going to be doing here tonight, and then we'll start. And here Tamara, yeah, Tamara says that he loves the hair. All right, good. We started with the compliments already. I
Yeah.
don't get those when I do live, so I can see the difference already. All right, so what we want to do tonight is we're going to be talking about emotional intelligence. We're going to be talking about human-centered leadership, and I'm excited that I am here with Denarius Lewis, who's a great friend of mine, somebody who has done a lot of amazing things that we're going to be talking about tonight. And I want to ask Denarius a number of questions here tonight. I'm going to put him to the test to see how he does tonight. But basically, let's have a great conversation about, so we're going to talk about human-centered leadership, we're going to talk about emotional intelligence, and we're going to talk about entrepreneurship with our friend Denarius, who is an entrepreneur. So with that, I'd like to just read, Denarius' bios here, just a few thoughts and comments about the things that Denarius is working on. But Denarius is a speaker, an international speaker. He speaks here. We live in Minnesota. He speaks in Minnesota, in other parts of the U.S., outside other countries. So this guy is, definitely in a lot of stages there. And then he's an author, has actually published multiple books. And he's a branding strategist who has a passion for empowering people to have a larger vision for their life, just like the one that you have for yourself. So building brands and encouraging inclusive hiring are two hallmarks of Denarius' leadership in global business. So Denarius right now, he's the CEO of a company called Optimum Outreach. And basically what they do is they consult with organizations to discover the best telecommunication solutions, including phone, internet, television, wireless services. They have strategic partnerships, and they basically represent any major carrier that is out there. So whenever if people are moving from one office to from one place to another, and they need to make any connection, these guys come in. They look at all of telecommunication connections that you have, and they'll just bring a recommendation for you how to do it differently and better. So with that, Denarius, these just some notes that I had about you, but why don't you go ahead and talk about yourself and let us know who you are and what you're doing out there.
Sure. So I'll give a quick little brief. So everyone, hello. My name is Denarius Lewis. I am a motivational speaker, an author, activist, a landlord, a man with many titles. But before I was a man of all these different titles, I'm a regular individual. I'm originally from Memphis, Tennessee. I grew up in Burnsville, Minnesota. After graduating high school in 2011, I said, hey, I want to go out to college. I want to make it work. So I eventually went to 3 colleges in 3 years. I was a part of a national champion team in wrestling and cross country in my first college in Iowa. It was a school called Iowa Central. After suffering my 9th concussion, I said, I'm done trying to be this wrestler, trying to be this macho guy. I then transferred to school out in Sierra Nevada College in Lake Tahoe. I lived a cool surfer life, paddleboarding, hiking. Obviously, a thing a person of color didn't typically do. But I got into my comfort zone and started networking with some like-minded people, and got to experience some really cool things. And I went through a transition of homelessness, survived the summer of 2013 with $1.78. Went to my 3rd college, and that's where I really turned things around. I created my very first app for iPhones, an app called Zombie Doodle. And that was my starting point of really becoming or deciding what entrepreneurship looked like. I had to start working a job at a very early age, helping out around the household. And at 15 years old, my mom, instead of giving me a birthday present, she gave me applications to jobs. And so I started working at an early age. So I was like, I opened the present, and it was just, it was Wendy's, McDonald's, Dairy Queen. I ended up working at Dairy Queen at 15 until I graduated high school and started working out, and then my side hustle at that time was I was buying and selling iPhones on Craigslist. And so I had an entrepreneurial drive because I realized I was making paycheck to paycheck. I was dealing with that at 15, dealing with that in my 20s, started dealing with that, really started putting a damper towards, what I really wanted to do. Fast forward today, I'm the CEO of Optimum Outreach. We're a telecom brokerage. where we assist businesses with their phone, TV, internet, and their wireless services. I've published 2 books. I'm now a landlord. I've set up multiple board of directors for nonprofits. I've been in politics. I've had my hands in a couple of things. Yeah.
That's awesome. So what I like to do tonight, Daenerys, I want to talk about some of the principles of emotional intelligence and, just kind of talk about how they apply to you. And the first one that I want to talk about is one of the 5 concepts of emotional intelligence has to do with self-motivation, right? Some authors call it self-agency, but it's basically the ability to look out for yourself and to have the motivation where people don't need to be telling you what to do, but you yourself, kind of have that fire from inside of you. And I have to tell you that since I met you a number of years ago, I always saw that in you. I saw this guy that has so much fire inside, so much passion, and you're always energized. It is energizing to see you because I think you always sleep with that energy. And I'm curious about that, because not everybody is like that, right? I mean, some people require motivation that come from somewhere else. And I would like for you to take your time and tell us about, where does that energy come from, that passion, that motivation, and that drive? I think that, you said it earlier in that, you in your upbringings, it wasn't always a piece of cake, right? You had some challenges there with your family. So if you can, don't worry, take your time and tell us a little bit about, as you were growing up with some of the challenges and difficulties, what gave you that drive, that passion, that energy to basically navigate through all of those obstacles and come up to the top and then be a force. I think the way I see you is that when I see you out there, you're pushing, driving, moving stuff, and it's you're really a force, right? And so where is that, all of that force and energy coming from?
Yeah, so I like that you thank you, and I appreciate that. And really, it started at a really early age, to be quite frank. I was one of those kids that was very scrawny, small, and and to be frank, I was bullied as a kid. So me being bullied as a kid was a way for me to all right, that sticks and stones, it really does not break your bone. It really makes your skin tougher. And so me growing up with that type of lifestyle, and then growing up into and being an adult, I was an athlete. And it really came with being an athlete. I wrestled for many years, and the one thing wrestling taught me is it may be a team sport, but you're out there on your own. And so when you're out there on your own, you have to find ways to be versatile. You have to overcome adversity. And one thing I've learned in the transition of building that mental toughness to always keep going and always striving or always discovering what the new thing is really coming to terms with not being stagnant. And stagnant sometimes we could be at a stage in our life that we feel like we're not in growth. But really, stagnant for me is limiting our brains to the amount of information that is out there. Because we are now in a time, the 2020s and going forward, that we have the internet, we have smartphones. Even though we can't be physical with each other, we're still finding a way to connect. And that's really where I have always learned ways when we're down and out, there's ways to reinvent ourselves. So a lot of people got hit with COVID this year, not only with the sickness, but also in our business, our social life, and the ways we interact with how we are as a core. So as extroverts, we're just last time we met, it was New Republica's 5-year anniversary. And that was in 2019. If you really think about it, but we're still connecting now here in 2020, and it's almost 2021. And so, the mindset really came from just always being in a position of someone saying I couldn't do something. So this is what happened a couple of years ago. So I went to college for 3 years. I didn't have a car license or permit. And obviously I like to date. So in my last college, I went out on a date with a girl. We were leaving my place, and this is in St. Cloud. It's -10 out, very cold. And we go out to the parking lot, and we go to an empty spot. She thinks where my car is. I was like, girl, I don't got no car. I'm broke. I'm trying to make it. And so we go back inside. We go back inside and we grab her car keys. And then we get into her car. Again, she's driving a new 2014 Prius. And then the first thing she says in the car, so you're a broke, the A word, and then the N word. And that was an offensive. Like, I took very big offense to that, obviously, because it was coming from a Caucasian girl, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, what?" But in a very sobering setting, I said, "Well, am I not?" And at that time in my life, I call it being the passenger seat in your life, when you have to rely on others for your transportation, your livelihood, your housing, your food. The list goes on and on. And I was in that frequency so much, but striving to have the independency of getting out, having my own car, having my own space, having my own place. And so in the back end of my mind, those were some of the things I was always striving for. Even though that wasn't my current reality, I knew that my situation was so temporary that despite whatever I'm going through, and I say this to any person in their life, their adversity and the turmoil is really a temporary stage that we're going through. And so I took that woman's quote and I looked at it, I wrote it on the wall, and I looked at it for 6 months straight. In 2 months, I got my permit to drive. And within 4 months, I had got my license. And then in 6 months, I had bought my first car because I kept seeing that hurtful, that I felt that pain that I had of lack. And always having that pain of lack, of knowing that I can, and not ever seeing anyone that's being more successful than me in an envious way, but seeing it in a very inspirational way. And so for me to always see the growth in myself and want to be around like-minded folks, it started with me building, seeing someone like yourself and being inspired by Luis. Luis he has partnership with the opera. I want to do stuff like that. And so really just me networking and always wanting to be around people that I can admire and look up to, but also in some facet realize that I'm doing something that some people may deem fun as well. And the one thing it really is a mentality, and people have to understand. Yeah, we can wake up and focus on the negative things, and there's plenty to focus on. We can't go outside without a mask. We can't go into our favorite stores. We can't even we really can't live our life as we once did. So, but on the other side, how have you adapted since? Have you focused on? Really, a lot of people are like, well, they're back at home. So have you focused on how fast your internet is? Have you re-engaged your family time? Have you built? Have you fought a lot? So many things are happening right now that is making us, every single person, be very versatile and what this COVID thing is, because there's no end all. We want to say it's next week. We want to say it's next year, but in the reality, we don't know. And so instead of like really sulking in like, oh, it's month 9, 2020 is always gone. I didn't even get to go to all these places. It's like, we make the best of it. And so here we are, using our platform that we would physically be in front of each other and bringing people on camera, and we're just being adjustable. So that's really where the attitude comes in, because life was going to throw a curveball. It goes back to how we go back and strike it and hit it and then adjust, because I see life as a video game, and we're all video games. That's why I'm very animated in how I think. we're the video game character in our lives. We make certain moves that determine the fate of what the decision that we made. And so, there's some people who want to be the banker. There's some people who want to build the bank, and there's some people who want to be the person that owns the bank. And so I want to be the person that owns the bank, that's able to do the different things that a bank owner is able to do, so I can give back. And so there's a lot of things we do, as a philanthropist and an activist. And next week, I'll be with the Brooklyn Center Police Department doing interviews for some of the officers who are now coming onto the force. So, but it's an attitude. It's an everyday attitude, because there's so many things that are happening in a very tragic manner. But it's how we approach it that's going to really get us through this.
I love it, Daenerys. I love it. And first is, I'm sorry that you have, you experienced bullying, as you were growing up, and then even that example with the girl, not a fun experience. But one of the things I like about you is that you're kind of like at peace. That I think you are in peace with the world, right? You really have no resentment in your heart, and you always have like a smile for everyone. So one of the things I like to do right now, before we move on to the next, part of emotional intelligence, there are a number of friends here that are greeting us. Why don't we go ahead and, both on my end and on your end, just do some greetings. I have my friend Luis Alberto Mejia Carvajal is joining us from Florida. We have our friend Tamara, mutual friend Tamara Torres, who says hello. I have my friend Eduardo Silva, who's connecting from Chile. Eduardo is a great friend. We have Isabel Serpa here joining us. Hola, Isabel. Thank you, Isabel. We have our friend Jonathan Alto. Thank you, John Alto, for always following us. We have Blanquis Castillo. Let's see who we have here. Carla Serpa. Hola, Carla. Hello, Carla. Thank you for joining us. Indira. Hi, Indira. We have Juan Fernandez of Finance Venezuela. Gracias, Juan, por unirte. Thank you, Juan. We have Luz Pellegrin. Let's see. And we have a few more friends here. Adri Medeman. So just joining you all. And then Aiki Mako. Hello from Caracas. Hello. All right, so we have folks joining us from Caracas, Venezuela. All right, so Denarius, one of the things that, it's very important in emotional intelligence is self-awareness, right? Which is the ability to see ourselves in the way that others would see us, right? So it's just kind of coming out of ourselves and then as an outsider looking back, into us and learn more about, who we really are and how we're coming across, what we're saying, what we're doing, all of those things. I think that, like I said earlier, that, you exemplify multiple of the components of emotional intelligence. So in self-awareness, I think that I venture to say that you have a pretty good understanding of who you are and where you stand. And then, I think you do a great job with your brand and how you've, kind of leveraged your image out there from a branding standpoint. So I love you to tell us a little bit about, from a self-awareness standpoint, how did you discover yourself? How do you learn more about yourself? How do you see yourself? And maybe what's the vision that you have? And before you do that, I'd like to tell everybody tonight on the call, something you may or may not know is that actually, my friend Denarius, he's not even 30 years old. He's not 30 years old yet, and he have already accomplished things that many people don't do in their entire lifetime, right? So writing 2 books at the age of, 20, early 20s, I think is something very impressive. So back to you, Denarius, self-awareness. How do you understand more about yourself? How do you get to, learn more? And then how do you see yourself? And so we'll go with that one, and then we'll continue with the other components.
Yeah, so one ways that I've learned to start, discovering myself and loving myself is getting to terms with what that looks like. And it's really that it starts with that inner conversation, addressing insecurity. One of my things I like to say, we all have insecurities, but our perceptions of our insecurities limit us. So let's have a sober conversation of what makes us feel, the way it makes us feel. And I'm at a point in my life where I really want to live in a frequency or in a realm of I'm past the stage of feeling lack. I'm past the stage of addressing things that make me feel not whole. And if it's conversations, if it's people, if it's energy, if it's certain negative topics, I'm going to be very stingent of my time and my energy and my space because I'm an empath. I'm an empath. I feed off energy. When we have a conversation, I can be tired before we start. But as soon as we start talking, I'm feeding off what you're saying, and we're getting engaging because I'm emotionally engaging what you're saying, and then intellectually, I'm emotionally receiving it. So we talk about how do I see myself and what do I see see the future of it. It's always been different because sometimes the world views you in a way you don't view yourself. And so I've always had to be mindful of the perception of you, the world views you how you view yourself. And so I've had to have some conversation. Well, I'm just, sometimes I just see myself as the kid who worked at Dairy Queen, who's, has a single parent mom and just, I work the jobs that I do and doing this and that. And so there's certain times that, I forget I have this online platform. I can't share certain comedic jokes. I can't do certain things where, not everyone knows that personality or if it's a sponsor or a brand. I have to be mindful of being strategic behind how I want to be perceived and how my humor wants to come off. But also, I'm in a stage where I'm going to be unapologetic. I'm going to be okay with who I am. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to be okay making, apologizing because I'm not perfect. No one's perfect. And I'm not a person that's here to put on an act. If I'm going through something, I'm letting the world know, hey, this is what's happening. I'm going through I'm going through an emotional breakup. I'm talking to my friends who are married. Hey, how'd you do that? Just being very direct and intentional, but also doing my best to be very authentic behind who I am. because I've been called out by good friends and loved ones on, you have to live up to what you put out in the world. And so whatever you put out in the world, make sure that is you and that does represent you. So
Yeah.
I'm in a stage where, again, I'm weary of my energy. I'm weary of who I'm around, and I'm very intentional for where I'm headed. And that's just being very mindful 24/7. That's a conscious thing because, yes, I could take a step out, be around the riffraff. I'm young, be around that lifestyle, but I also know the outcome of that. It's either a hangover the next day, being caught up in the downtown nightlife with all the craziness that happens, or I could have just stayed at home, focused on my content, read a book, learn ways to break free of feeling that I even need to go back into that environment, and really be intentional behind my intuition, because I'm a very thoughtful person. My intuition, if something rubs me the wrong way, it's probably because I shouldn't be doing it. You go in that area, and just again, it's me being weary of my body. And I'm in a stage right now. Yeah, I'm 27 years old, but the people and the wisdom I'm around are people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. And when people speak life into you, because they see something in you. And I've been around a lot of people that have seen something in me where, again, I'm still trying to put my head around how I'm going to monetize this online brand, monetize leaving an impact and making an impact. Not only just the impact that I may have made in Minnesota, in the Midwest, or whatever, but really it's international. It's everywhere, because there's ways that we can help people everywhere. And my big goal is always to help people and who are less fortunate, whether that's financially, spiritually, mentally, physically, and also financially. Because in all those different avenues, sometimes we're brought into worlds that don't necessarily reflect who we are inside. And when I had $1.78 to my name, people didn't know that was what I had, but people gave me the invite. I still was able to network. People brought me around, not because I had something in my pocket. It's what I had in my heart. And so I always tell people to be very intentful of who they are, because the genuine conversation that everyone's going to have behind your back is really who you are and what you stand for. So if I'm going to be in a public light and stand for things that I feel that bring me passion, I want to make sure I'm surrounding myself with like-minded people who are going down that same path.
Yeah, I love that. And Denarius, one of the things, you were talking about like insecurities that, we all have our own insecurities. And one of the things that I find is that most people are protective about their internal realities, about their stories, about what's happening. And, when some things about themselves that may not be in the way that they would like them. And one of the things that is different about you that I've seen, that I admire you for that, and I really, I clap you, I applaud you for that, is that you really are like an open book in that, like following in your, social media accounts, is that you really open up your life and your heart, and you let other people know. I mean, when things don't go well, when things go wrong, when you're sad, when you're, when kind of like anything, you just share that with the world, right? And I think, so I congratulate you for that, because I think that when we talk about insecurities, one of the reasons why people don't share that is because they are afraid that other people would use that to, bully you, to, right, make you feel bad about it, or to use it against you, or who knows. But I think that it's just very admirable, very impressive how you really, open up your heart and let others know. Even I've read instances where you have shared mistakes that you have made in all aspects. So, tell us a little bit about that. What's the process, when you go, and I love for people that are now here with us tonight, that are connected, that they hear a little bit about that, so that they consider, if you guys that are connected with us tonight, if it's hard for you to reveal aspects of your life, here would love to hear tonight from someone who really, I think, doesn't keep anything to himself. It's just like an open book that it let others into his internal world. So go ahead, Denarius. Share with us.
Thank you, and it's very intentional, and it's mainly because I'm not looking to be like every single other person. I'm not looking to be the workshop guy with the click funnel. I want to really assist people and find people. So I've been rubbed the wrong way, and with certain brands online that I don't, may not feel that it's authentic. Because in a real sense, there's not everything goes our way as an entrepreneur. We're the most optimistic folk out there, but we also have some things that don't go optimistically in our way. Maybe it's our business. Maybe it was in a state. Maybe it's our personal life. But, because not enough people know what's going on in your personal life that it may be affecting your business. And when you're open to the world of, hey, when people see you, hey, you know me as a business owner, whatever, you see me succeeding, but there's a lot of failure along that succeeding. Maybe that's in a personal life, in a relationship where the emotional, I have to be more emotionally intellect or engaging or even receptive. There's ways that growth is not just in business. Growth is in our personal life. Growth is in our everyday life. Growth is, I talk to a lot of parents, friends who are older. Their parents have passed away. My mom is still alive, but I'm having that conversation with them. How did you cope? Blah blah blah. Because there's a stage in life that I know I'm gonna reach, and for me to get to that point, I have to be open to have that conversation. So, because a lot of people speak life into me. I'm around a lot of older people, and everyone does things differently. I want to be the person that wants to tell the testimony. So, hey, I was broke, I was homeless. This is what I did. Hey, me and my girlfriend broke up, and I had to live 7 months with her and her sister because that was our situation. We were on a lease. I had to figure it out. I built my business for 7 months while I was living in the spare bedroom with my ex-girlfriend, trying to progress, still going out there and dating, still trying to progress. And this really happened. And the same day, the day that I got dumped, was the same month I had to file Chapter 7 bankruptcy, was also the same month I ended up getting fired from my job. And so, and then the day that I got dumped, the very next day, PBS over in Twin Cities had picked up my story as an entrepreneur, and they were writing an article on me. And I'm like, I had a girlfriend yesterday, jokingly in the interview. I'm glad she didn't write that in the article, because I was like, yesterday I had a girlfriend, and now I'm single, and I'm trying to figure out my living space, but outside of that, I'm speaking at this school, I'm speaking here. And because I'm maybe progressing in certain aspects, but certain aspects it has to be it's 360. So just telling people, hey, even when I was down and out, or I felt down and out, or I got fired, or whatever the case may be, or I had 5 cars I had 5 cars in 2 years, and because I was just buying hoopty cars to get me point A to point B, until one of my mentors, he's like, Denarius, for you to have that stable life of stability, it starts with your transportation. Then it goes with housing, and so take the thing that's going to get you from point A to point Z. Get that stable and then work your way up. So I got a stable car. I finally got on my head of I don't want a car payment. I want to buy out of cash, but I never had enough money to pay out of cash. So get a car payment, learn how to budget, learn how to manage, and just basically grow up. And so I had to grow up in that aspect. And once I grew up in that aspect, that took on, I got my first property, and I'm living in a duplex. My renters live downstairs. The rent that I charge pays the mortgage. So I'm 27 now, living basically mortgage free, and tackling that next step. But it really all starts with me addressing, understanding myself a lot more and what my ticks and knots are, and just being open-minded and being transparent and authentic. Because for anyone that you see that's successful, the 50 Cents, the Sean Combs, the P. Diddy's, all those different big names, you may not know what it took for them to get there, the sleepless nights. And I know where I'm headed, where we have a business where I see myself being in the billionaire. I want to be a billionaire. Why not? Shoot for the stars. And when I'm down that route, I started at an early age. I know my goal. My goal is to have 30 units by 30 in real estate. So in the next year, in a couple months, I'm buying my second my fourplex, and I'm building my portfolio. But I want to tell a track record of what I aspire to have, and because I've been doing this since 2013. I have over 600 videos on YouTube, and I go back and look at all the things that I aspire to be or I now have. So it's now I'm in that frequency of okay, continue to talk that good stuff and continue to manifest what you want to have and what you want to experience, and what legacy that I really want to give back, because it's not really about me. It's about inspiring people to do what they choose to do and what they can do and what they want to do, because there's someone in the world who's going to tell them they can't. And I'm here to tell you that from a guy who's, a lot of people, have pointed fingers, this and that. I wasn't always a good kid. I was a troublemaker growing up. Got suspended over 15 times as a kid. I was really bad. I talked back to teachers. And it was really at a time that I didn't know myself. Growing up in a single parent household, I didn't listen to my mom. And it was just me just not being happy. And with me addressing who I was then and not living in that frequency of I'm that troublemaker kid, it's just changing that perception. It goes back to that conversation. How do you view yourself? And at times I see myself as a kid who used to get in trouble for doing the most dumbest things and getting suspended all the way until I was a senior in high school, and also, my humor. But it goes back to being authentic, being transparent, and saying, "Hey, everyone that knows me from high school, I'm still that goofy guy." I had a friend reach out and say, "Hey, do you remember the times we had our conversations?" I'm like, "I remember every conversation. I take weirdness as a compliment because I'm not looking to fit in. I'm looking to stand out. And so I'm still that weird guy that's still goofy, who still reads all these books, who still thinks the way he thinks. I'm just trying to find ways to compartmentalize which avenues to put it in, who actually can receive that type of energy. Because I'm go go go. Like if we're seeing coffee like we're typically going, I'm just as animated face to face. There's no difference. Like I may be behind the camera, but like when I believe in something, or I'm having fun with a conversation, I get really into it because I feed off the energy of these emotionally intelligent conversations where if we want to talk about feelings, let's talk about feelings, because this is how I felt. Have you ever been in this position? Because again, I look up to any person that has or is living in a frequency or in a reality that I want to have. I want to be a husband someday. I want to be a dad. The list goes on and on. So when I meet friends that are husbands, that have kids, I'm like, so you have someone that looks like you that you talk to? Like, how does that work out? Like,
yeah. Absolutely. I love that. I'm not into fitting in, but I'm into standing out. I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna take note on that. I really liked it. So I think we've talked about already. We talked about self-motivation, self-agency. We talked about self-awareness, self-understanding, and we also talked about self-regulation. So we only are down to the last two, which is empathy and then social skills. And before we do that, I want to just go ahead here and greet a few people that have been joining us, but here we have, let's see, we have Henry Oke, who's joining us from Panama. So greetings, Henry. We have Juan Jaimes, who's joining us as well. Tefaison, Yudmira Cunha, who's joining us from Venezuela. So, all right, we have Yudmira. Okay, so just a few greetings. Manuel Urbina. So hello, Manuel. Okay, so for those of you that would like to, we are here with Denarius Lewis. He's a very young entrepreneur. He's only 27. He's now already written 2 books. He already owned property. He's a landlord, so he rents property to other people. He's living, mortgage free, which is very impressive. And many, the list goes on and on. And before we move into more, Denarius sharing more of his life with us, I want to remind you, so next to the box on the bottom where it says comment, for those of you that may not know, there are 2 squares and one has a question mark in it. So in that symbol that has the 2, kind of rectangles, if you will, with one with a question mark, you can go ahead and press on that one, and then you can type a question. And if you do that, it will allow us, Denarius and I, to actually pull the question and display it on the screen so that everybody can see your question with your name. So I would love to take questions from you so that Denarius can take those questions. So with that, let's move then into the 4th component of emotional intelligence, one of my favorite ones, which is empathy. And I think, Denarius, you've taken our emotional intelligence training, right? Yeah, so thank you for making the time to do that. And I know we have Tamara here among the participants, and you've taken Tamara's training as well. So thank you for making the time. And, this is a great part of a partnership that we're, kind of training each other. I've been to your presentation, you've been to mine, and I think that's how we're like helping each other grow. So let's move on to empathy. One of the things I've seen about you is that, kind of that empathy to go out and, first is to listen. I think you're a great listener, right? That when we speak with you, when I talk with you, not only you stop talking so that you hear what I have to tell you, but you're tracking in your head, and then you come back and say, hey, Luis, what about this? What about that? Like you follow up on things that we talked about, and that means a lot, and that speaks a lot about you and your values. I also see that you take the time to go out there and you spend time with other people and other organizations. For the people on the call tonight, so that they know, one of the things that Denarius does is that he helps police departments. So he partners with police departments in the city, multiple of them, to give them consulting and advice on how to be better and how to hear the voice from their communities, which is very impressive. So the fourth component of emotional intelligence is empathy. We're with Denarius Lewis tonight. Denarius, take us through your interaction with empathy.
Yeah, so with empathy, is really taking a human approach toward how we interact with people. How do we interact in business, and how do we interact in a social manner? So for many years, a couple years ago, obviously we saw what's happening with the Black Lives Matter, the police brutality. So back in 2016, I marched with the Black Lives Matter movement in downtown Minneapolis, and I really got inspired by what had happened, and unfortunately what had happened to Mike Brown down in the South. And I decided at that point where I was going to find ways that I could do something in my own community. Sorry, I have my cat that likes to be a cat. And so a friend that got me a opportunity to be a part of the Multicultural Advisory Committee of the Brooklyn Center Police Department. And so I've been a part of the Brooklyn Center Police Department, a committee for the past 5 years. Been part of multiple hiring panels where they invite me on panels where we interview sergeants who are looking for promotions, police officers who are looking to become police officers, and then we do a lot of community outings where coffee with the cop, and then I also did I created my own event in brand called Pose with a Cop, which is where I went around with a documentary, and I sat down with cops and had one-on-one conversations with police officers to ask them, hey, how is it being a cop? What are some of the frustrations you feel that you meet on a daily basis? Where you think we could bridge the gap and just really having a one-on-one with a police officer? Because we have such a narrative of, cops doing what cops do in the media, but we never have a one-on-one conversation with, hey, this is how I've been interacting in this world. This is why we're so tense. This is the reason why we may come off in a stern tone and stern voice, but it's because we're trying to assess a situation. We don't, and then we're in that situation, and that situation can put us in danger. And so it's really coming from a compassionate and empathetic approach to really hear the police officer, because again, we're only hearing the negative, unfortunately, but we're never hearing the officers who aren't doing those things, who aren't. I have interviews with officers who have been in the force for 20 plus years and they've never fired their gun. Well, what are you doing in the force that you're doing for 20 years so you don't have to put yourself in danger? And it really goes down to training, really being comprehensive of what's happening. Obviously, times have changed but policing has been policing all its life. And so it really goes down to, in the way that I go about being empathetic and approach, it's just really me seeing humanity. And it's really, I carry, like I said, I'm an empath. So when I see someone in pain, or I'm a giver and I'm a fixer, so I always like to find solutions. In what way that I can assist? Who can I connect you to? And when I started to work along police officers, I realized, the play that I realized what was happening. I'm an African-American male, and I'm unarmed. And that's the situation that happens. And so no matter if I'm wearing a suit, no matter if I'm wearing my sweat, no matter if I'm going for a run, I match the description. And that description is, unfortunately, a black male. And I didn't like that narrative. And I said, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to make sure I know each department. If I live in a city, I want to know that department. I want to work alongside the police department. I want to find ways that we can interact and bridge that gap. And so I've been doing cops with the cops with them. I've done run-alongs with cops. And I did my own documentary with the police department. And next week, I'll be on a hiring panel for some of the upcoming officers who are looking to be hired to police the community. Because one of the things I always say, with the lack of diversity that many departments have, there's a lack of cultural awareness. And there's going to be a barrier, a language barrier. And as a person of color, if I go into a community, a smaller community, there's going to be a language barrier. It's going to be a culture barrier. And if I don't understand the language, the tone that someone gives me may be a tone that again, puts me on high alert. And now I'm interacting more aggressive because of lack of understanding, lack of compassion, and again, lack of empathy, understanding that person is frustrated. They're going through something that you may not understand, and you are also not comprehending what they're saying. So you're getting riled up, and now it's frequency, high frequency, and those two things don't match. And those type of elements, it comes in, a turmoil for disaster. So one thing I'm always aware of is in what ways can I be more compassionate and address it with a more direct tone where as a PCA, I work with vulnerable adults, and when an adult has a temper tantrum, I can't meet them with another yelling match because now they can react in a physical manner, and me as a trained professional, I can't physically hold or hit or do anything to defend myself because again, this is a vulnerable adult. I'm a trained person that should know how to de-escalate. And if we're going to actually have an engaging conversation, it's not going to become an argument, because when it becomes an argument, it's becoming a shouting match of you proving your side rather than hearing both sides for what it is and having an intellectual conversation. And even if you don't agree, you still can have a conversation on why you can understand why you disagree with them or you don't agree with them. But now we're at a time right now where it's cancel culture. If you don't agree with me, we're not friends. I'm deleting you, blah, blah, blah. I don't care if you are so-and-so, that's your belief, but this is where I stand and this is where I lie, at least you know where I am. And that's really building that boundary. It goes back to being very intentional with how you're emotionally engaging with people who are in your circle, and also how people ultimately view you.
And I'm so happy that we're doing this together. I always learn something from you when we talk. And one of the things that is really impressive about you is what in my head I think of maturity and emotional maturity, right? I mean, I think that when I was 27, I wasn't as mature as you are right now. I don't know if I am right now. No, but it's very impressive that you have really, kind of matured and have this comprehension of life, this understanding of life. And I love what you said about, because I mean, in this situation where we have, for example, the police against, it's like certain communities and the black community and the police, and we have this tension, somebody sees you and says, well, you're a black guy, there have been black male that have been killed by the police. So when I see you, well, you're an enemy of the police. And yet what we're finding, and what I already knew, but you're sharing here with everyone tonight, is that you are a friend of the police and you spend time with them, and you're like learning with them, and you give a lot of your time pro bono with them. So that's really very impressive. It's not what people think. And I love what you share of officers that have, been out on the street for 20, 25 years, and they've never had to fire their guns, which is very impressive. There is a question here from John Alto, who is saying, Luis was a top 40 under 40. Daenerys is a young mover and shaker. Do either of you have a personal board of directors, something formalized to help guide you that made you successful? So Daenerys, do you have your personal board of director, people telling, giving you some advice on what to do and what not to do?
I have a circle of influence. And so I do have a top 4 people that I do reach out to time to time. But I really am always bringing on new people. And so I would say some of the people who are part of my mentor, my board of directors of my life, is right now my business partner. He's a very intelligent person, KZ. He's a person I definitely take a lot of advice from. He's a couple of years older than me. And I have another good friend. His name is Chow Lei. Chow, great individual, and he's a mentor. He's a mentor that really helped me understand. So I have a book, The Power of the Essence of Inspiration. And so in my book, I actually dedicated this book to some of my board of directors people. And so
by the way, how do people that are here with us tonight, how do they get your book? How can they get a copy of your book?
Yeah, so my book is called The Essence of Inspiration. The A to B Steps to a Richer Life. You can find this book on Amazon. You simply just Google Daenerys Lewis and it'll pop up. You'll also see one of my first books, which is called The Power of the Subconscious Mind, a pocketbook guide for success, prosperity, and happiness. Those are 2 books that you'll find on Amazon. You can find.
But you look sad for the picture of a book. You look kind of sad. Like, bring it closer to the camera. Look at that sad guy. That's a big smile, beautiful smile. That's a great way to look happy there on a book. Yeah,
So what
perfect.
I wanted to read off the acknowledgments of these two things because this is what really helped me when you talk about emotional intelligence. Um, so this is what I said. So this is what I wrote in dedication to my mentors. I said, thank you to Chow Lei. I appreciate the countless advice you gave me on earlier in my career. He made a conversation with me. He said, in 2018, we'll meet 4 times. And if you aren't on your P's and Q's, we won't meet again. And he held me accountable. This individual, and with his business, he was making over $100,000 a week with his business. He didn't make the time, he didn't have the time, but he made the time because he respected me. And but that was enough fuel in my fire because I know I have professionals like you. Like whenever we met for coffee, I always had an update. Hey, this is what I'm up to. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm looking to do. We were just catch up because I realized that sometimes you want to catch up with people and just catch up. And it's not about an ask. It's not about, hey, I'm looking for a job. I'm not looking for this. It's just catching up and saying, hey, man, you're doing these things and communicating each other and seeing how can we collaborate and do something similar. And Chow was one of those individuals that really led a fuel in my fire. And then I had another mentor. She helped me understand what authenticity looked like. And that's where it really came down to being transparent because when I had a person that saw me before I could see myself. And before I could even understand what I was going through, she was predicting what was happening at that stage because she had already been there. And it really helped me understand that, you can't take everyone with you. And everyone, the road is not for everyone. But you have to also be mindful for whoever drops off, be okay with it. Learn, grow, adapt, and address that emotions. So when I talk about things that I've had to deal with, which is sometimes has been my anger or my insecurity or my male fragility. It's all emotions that I gave power to. And when we give power to insecurities, it makes us powerless. And so I just started changing that narrative inside, started gaining more ways of self-love and appreciation. And then I started surrounding myself with people that really helped me raise my frequency and put me in a light that sometimes, again, I may not see myself, but I have to continue to go down that path and trust that it's the path that, the universe and God has intended for me.
Wonderful. I love it. And John, and then in my case, my personal board of director, the president is my wife, is the person that I trust the most and, who has the best advice for me. And then I have, other folks like in my family, my sister, and, some other relatives that are sincere and give me honest feedback. And then you, John, you're also in my board of directors. You've always, for so many years, have a great advice for me. I'm going to give just a few. We're down to our last 10 minutes. The time really goes fast, so I want to just say hello to a few folks that have been joining us. So I think we have here Orquídea, who has joined us. Hello, Orquídea. Mario Vargas. Tenemos a Mario Vargas. We have Karina Centofanti. And I see Niadak. I don't know if you recognize some of your friends here, Denarius, the Prince Royal, but Dachi
Yeah, that's one of
25
my friends. That's my friend from a realtor friend from Miami.
from Miami. All right, so greetings to the Prince Royal in Miami. Thank you for joining us. So remember, we're down to the last 10 minutes of our conversation today. If you can ask us questions, remember next to the comment box, there is, to the right of it, there's two rectangles. One has a question mark. You can go ahead and click there and type your question so that we can pull it up and display it on the screen. John Altof is saying, thank you, gentlemen, for your responses. Absolutely. So, as we move forward here towards the last 10 minutes, we're going to talk about the last, the fifth and last component of emotional intelligence, which is social skills. And I think throughout the call tonight, through the conversation, you've been talking about social skills and sharing things, around social skills. But let's close with some advice, Denarius, advice that you can share. First is, for young people. I mean, I've said this to you in person multiple times, that it is really impressive that with such young age, you've been able to accomplish so much, and that you always have so much energy and passion to keep going. So for young people, I mean, some of the folks that are here with us tonight that are young folks, what is your advice to stay, to get things done in a early age? And then for everyone else, just what is your advice and we can focus it on the social skills part. All right. I mean, I think you're a very likable person. Whenever we run into each other, you're always with a smile, and I think you're respectful of other people. You're kind, generous. All of those are human abilities really that increase your likability score. So I think that you really have earned a space in community with just the way that you are. So in closing, in our last now almost 5 minutes, it would be advice for young folks about social skills, how to be more likable, and we'll close it for tonight. And I want to tell you, Daenerys, that I really, really admire you. I appreciate you. I look forward to doing more with you, and I thank you for being with us here tonight.
Appreciate you for having me, Luis. So it really starts with one thing I learned is people like to approach people who are happy, who would gravitate. And I'm a big firm believer in the law of attraction. So whenever I go into a room, I want to dress to impress. I want to dress and I want to feel good. I want to feel confident. And one thing, when you just walk into the room and you dress confident, you dress as you would want to dress, people want to know who you are. And for whoever you are, you have to work on that. It's being sociable. It's being able to hold a conversation. And sometimes those conversations go nowhere, but as long as you gave them your time. And that's the one thing where it really gets to people, or the conversation may not be engaging to you, maybe you don't, but at least you gave your time, you were respectful, and you're able to network. But sometimes the networking goes nowhere. And one thing I tell people is not about going somewhere. Sometimes just meeting people, and you're going to meet the right person for whatever you're looking for. But you have to be very optimistic towards building a business. You have to be very optimistic towards building things, because it's not about building something in a very unauthentic way. It's about building friendships, because friends help friends. So if you're not out there to network and build friends and people you can hang out with and travel with, I mean, that's how I go about it. And that's why it's like when I go out, I'm going out to have fun with people. I'm going out to make them laugh and be goofy and be myself around people who sometimes aren't necessarily around people with a personality or a big personality, or this weirdo who's just always smiling. Even in a book, he's smiling. So you're really just going out to be yourself. But a lot of people sometimes have struggle with who they are. They have their insecurities and whatever the case may be. But I like to tell people don't know you as your insecurities. They only know you if you tell them. So introduce yourself as what you want to know. And especially when people are like striving to build a business or build a brand, speak it into existence of what you want to be, not what you're striving to be. And so if you want to be a speaker, if you want to be this author, say, I am an author and I'm in a process of writing a book. You speak it into existence. The book may not be complete, but the idea is there. And because people only know you as you introduce yourself. So when I started to build my business, and where I kept meeting people and kept meeting people kept referring me because they knew me as this and this and this. And that's just how it had been. And I live in this frequency of like, I've always been a speaker because I always was speaking to people. Now I'm getting paid to speak, and it's all a transition, but it all starts from the conversation within, because the conversation that's within ultimately attracts the stuff that's external. So when I tell people, you go out and network, you want to build social skills, you want to build this business, you want to build who you are. Well, let's sit down and actually discover who you are, because some people are extroverts, some people are empaths, some people, introverts. So everyone's different, and some people don't like the network. Well, in the confinement, they may just love to just send out emails. They may just want to do this. This may be their thing. So, but you have to find out what that thing is and tackle it and be yourself. And people love to be around people smiling. So you'll always see me with a smile, because I'm always around. I'm especially when COVID's over. I'm going to be happy around people. I'm going to be at every event because, hey, I missed you guys. I'm sorry I missed. There was a time. There's times where we go to so many events we don't want to go to anymore, and it's like, see, I now bite my tongue. I wish I would have went to those events. Now with no more people, now I need to go back there and meet more people to build my business, because we need people and we need to interact, and the only way we can do that is by building our social skills to do so.
Wonderful, Daenerys. So let me tell you that I've been wanting to do this live for a long time with you. I thought that we would get a lot of great insights, and I wasn't wrong. It is always, insightful to speak with you. Thank you for all the tips tonight. Thank you for everything you do, for others. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Here, we only have 1 minute left, and I'd like to say hello to my friend Felipe Madriz, who's here with us tonight, and Robert Libertela, who are joining us from Venezuela. So we only have 1 minute left. So for everyone to join tonight, that was Denarius Lewis. He's an author. He's an entrepreneur. He's in Minnesota. He's only 27 years old, and he's already changing the world. He's my friend. I look forward to seeing him in person again soon. So, and Denarius, so you're in this 1 minute left. You want to share? Let's close with you sharing your social media, handle so that people can follow you. For anyone wanting to follow Denarius, where do they follow you? And I'll say bye. You'll say where to follow, and the transmission will end.
Yeah, so everyone, you can follow me at Denarius Lewis on any social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And then you can check us out at OptimumOutreach.com. Every month we have a virtual business networking meeting that we bring in 30 business owners, like-minded entrepreneurs, and we're able to powwow, display what we do and how we can better assist each other in our lives and also in our business. So go to OptimumOutreach.com and just follow me at Denarius Lewis.
Perfect. Thank you. So my name is Luis Moreno. I'm at Luis Moreno TCVPN. I have my YouTube channel, Luis Moreno TCVPN, and I'm on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Facebook. So looking forward to more conversations like this. Thanks to everyone who joined us tonight. Isabel Serpa, great to see you. See you, Denarius. Have a great night, and thank you again for everything you do for everyone. All right. So see you, Denarius.
Yeah.
All right. See you. Bye-bye. A pleasure, my friend.